Thank you so much, Steffi, for that lovely introduction. And yes, please do subscribe to Wired, and thank you to those of you who do.
I think more people know Wired than GitHub.
I'm delighted to hear that, frankly. Very good news all round. So there was a show of hands, actually, the number of people who are aware of GitHub, which is, I think, quite impressive, but this is obviously a very sophisticated audience. But for those people, Thomas, who maybe don't know GitHub Copilot, do you want to just give people an overview so they know what we're talking about for the next 20 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you so much for doing this conversation with me. If you don't know GitHub, this is where software developers build the world's code, whether it's code in your companies that they're only sharing with your coworkers, or whether it's so-called open source code that really millions of developers work around the world. And in the recent years, we developed a product called Copilot, and you can actually use Copilot to ask what Copilot is. It's a pair programmer that developers can use when they write code in the editor to predict the next line, the next multiple lines of code. It really makes their life easier by helping them to write code.
Okay, so we just heard from Azim, and I thought the observation that technology is things getting cheaper is a really interesting one when we look at things like lithium batteries and we look at solar and many other forms of technology, genomics, which are massively dropping in price. Yep. This is obviously something I would imagine that is also reflected within the developer community. It's now cheaper probably to build than it's ever been before. We've seen incredibly rapid advances over the last year or so in software. 10 years ago, we were all told, and we all probably told our kids, you guys need to learn to code. That's the future. I'm interested to know from you, Thomas, A, if you think that's true any longer. Are we going to be living in a world basically where AI will be writing the code for us?
Yeah, you know, it's been actually more than 10 years since Mark Andreessen wrote a famous blog post that is saying software is eating the world. And I think we can all admit that has happened. Software has eaten the world, and now it's AI's turn. AI is now eating software, and we started working on this product called GitHub Copilot, and it really is a reflection that now software developers not only need to know about how to write software, they also need to know how to write code, how to control the AI. And with Copilot, we see that now already 50% of the code is written by AI. In those files where Copilot is enabled, 50% of the code is written by AI. And I think in a short amount of time, it's 80% of the code that is written. But it's not about those 80%, it's about the remaining 20%. Because what Copilot really does, it lets developers, it helps developers with the things that they don't want to do, so they have more time to focus on the things they want to do. And I think that is so important in this world of software.
Sure, and is this about people getting like a head start on projects and being able to iterate faster, or is this about people being able to do things maybe they wouldn't be able to build?
Both of those things, I would say. You know, any company that manages software today has that challenge. They have all the innovative ideas. They have the ideas of their management, the ideas of their customer, and then they have their backlog. You know, some call it tech debt. And my joke always is, you know, any software developer hates the code that they wrote 6 months ago, because in the meantime, the technology has evolved and they have learned so much. And they look at this old stuff and they're going to their managers and like, we need to rebuild it all. Yeah. And so Copilot and AI helps managers and developers to take the effort down for both of these buckets. So again, they have more time to then innovate and build the world of tomorrow.
And does this basically change the skills that developers need? Like, do you think the developers of the future are going to need the skills that maybe the developers of 5 or 10 years actually relied on in terms of actually writing the code themselves, or that world's finished now?
Yeah, you know, every time I talk with banks, with insurances, with the local and federal governments here in Germany, and in fact in almost any country, they're still running code from the 1960s, a programming language called COBOL that was invented in the late 50s when Eisenhower was the president. Wow. That's how old that code is. And then you hear that, you know, Finanzamt Stuttgart is modernizing their code base. They're moving from COBOL 7 to COBOL 10. That's actually the modernization in this country, right? And so the truth is, we've always moved from technology to technology, from punch cards to assembly to COBOL. I learned BASIC first and then had Turbo Pascal. Now we have all these higher programming languages, that's open source libraries. But at the same time, we have to maintain all this old code while we are attracted by the new. And so with AI, we can learn about both of them. And we will have kids using natural language, including German, because you can just prompt ChatGPT and Copilot in German to explore this world of both software from the past and the software of tomorrow.
So we talked a little bit about productivity. I'm interested in getting your views on creativity. Are we going to start seeing new types of businesses? Are entrepreneurs going to start developing different kinds? What are you seeing within your community? How's it changing?
If I look at the startup ecosystem, whether it's here in Germany or in the United States, they're all already on AI. They're already using Copilot because any startup, any small company understands that a 30% productivity gain is a massive increase of their throughput. Yeah. Whether you have 3 developers, 5 or 10 developers, you know that you cannot build all the same things that a large company can build, but you do know that you're very flexible, that you're very agile. And so I think we're going to see amazing things where AI is used both within the company to build the future of tomorrow, and AI is used within their product to build really amazing things. So
just to stay on that point for a moment, do you think this is going to benefit sort of early stage businesses and startups, and that scale of the change that they're able then to sort of it's more than maybe than large organizations with, as you say, very complex legacy systems?
Yeah, I mean, every startup where I'm an investor in, and I get these monthly updates from the CEO or from the founders, and ever since last year, they all have this is how much runway I have, maybe it's 10 months, some have 20 months, and so they all understand that at some point they need to reach that stage where they have product market fit, or at least have some innovation, so the next level investors will put more money into their startup. So for them, it's crucial to leverage any tool that is available to them, any technology, to move really fast. And I think that is different to a large company that always has to balance, the demands of big, large enterprise customers or the big, large industry versus, the innovation that they want to drive themselves. And so both sides benefit from this, but small companies especially will have a real edge of using AI.
So you were talking earlier on when we were backstage a little bit about you're going to India in March. Yeah. Obviously, you sort of spend a lot of time on the road talking to the developer community. What kinds of ways are you seeing the community in terms of the trends? How are they thinking about being able to use Copilot now that this tool is really quite, much more powerful than it certainly was even, a year ago?
Yeah, we started working on Copilot in the middle of 2020 at the height of the first lockdown in the United States, and then came early 2021. We had an internal ship, and we saw the excitement from our own developers, so we shipped the preview in the middle of 2021. This was all way before ChatGPT and DLD talking about AI, and every time I met with big enterprises, they were like, AI is the news of tomorrow, let's talk about the problems of today, and then came ChatGPT, and all of a sudden, all my executive briefings, all my meetings, whether it's here in Germany or whether it's in Bangalore and Singapore, they're all like, Thomas, tell us more about Copilot. Tell us how we can use your tools and how we can learn of how you're building Copilot to leverage generative AI, to leverage large language models for our own platform.
So you started it started at Microsoft, and now that model, AI writing code for developers, has been adopted across the entire Microsoft ecosystem. And Satya Nadella said at Ignite, which is the big Microsoft conference last November, he talked about the age of copilots. I'm really interested what that kind of means for enterprises, and what's real and what's part of the hype cycle.
Yeah, Microsoft has always been a platform company. If you look into Microsoft's history, and it's now almost 50 years. I think next year is Microsoft's 50th birthday. There have been a number of these platforms, and the one big one, probably the first major software platform was Windows, right? We all, in some form or another, got in touch with Windows 20, 30 years ago, and Windows created the ladder that got us into the cloud, into this supercomputer that really powers many of the enterprises around the world, and we call our cloud Azure. And Azure and Windows then, and all the data that is on the internet, that is on that supercomputer, built the foundation to bring artificial intelligence, to bring all these copilots into the market. And what these copilots do whether it's the GitHub Copilot or the Microsoft Copilot or any of these AI assistants, is exactly what they do for software developers as well. They help your employees, they help all of you to do the things that you don't want to do, so you have more time in your life to do the things that you do want to do.
Okay, so I want to switch now. There's the title of this talk, it's not above us any longer. The second part, Germany faces a dual tech crisis. So like, Thomas, you're back in Germany. You're not from Bavaria, you're from Berlin, so okay. As AI world, is Germany really behind? Really?
You know, every time I land here in Germany, I definitely get the feeling they're behind, if only with my luggage at Frankfurt Airport, 45 minutes wait. And I think, you know, and when we heard it actually in the previous talk, it was like a nice setup. I think it's true, Germany is behind, and they're behind in two things. One is digital transformation, digitalization. You just need to look at the statistics, number 6 in the G7, number 17 in the G20. Any statistic shows that Germany is in the bottom third of digitization. Companies in Germany have not realized that software is powering the world now, that they all have to become software companies. And you know what? The only real big major software company in Germany is SAP. You can't come up with any other one. And then now we're in this wave of AI, and the wave of AI is only going to work if we have the digital transformation, if we have our systems in the cloud, if we have transformed the culture of our companies to a software culture. And so, yeah, I think Germany is right now behind, but I also think that AI offers Germany an opportunity to get ahead of both of those things.
Right.
If you look into the open source space, you know, Stable Diffusion, this image model that was big in the news in the summer of 2022, was actually developed in part here at Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. Germany is number 7 of open source contributors to AI projects on GitHub. We have a lot of smart, ingenious people here in Germany, engineering pride. So we have it in our hands to become the leader in AI and in the digital economy.
Okay, so by the way, if you really want to wait at an airport for your luggage, try going through Heathrow. No complaints about Frankfurt. Okay, I want to unpack this. You've been very provocative to a German audience. We're here in Munich. I want to know why you think Germany is behind. I mean, you've given us the data points. She's 17 out of 20, the G20. And how do we fix this? Right? This is a country that's with an amazing engineering culture and history. Like, how do we fix this?
You know, we're here in Munich, and in Germany we like soccer analogies, and obviously the UK also has a poor soccer team. Munich has the best soccer team. I'm even willing to admit that as somebody from Berlin. And whenever our national team loses the World Cup, we talk about the youth, and we talk about how we need to do more work with young people. And the same is true if you think about the future of Germany. We need to start in schools, and in schools, the software, what you learn about software, what you learn about IT is terrible today. I heard from a startup founder here in Munich the other day that there's classrooms where there is no internet, there's no Wi-Fi. You have to walk to a different classroom to download a file, and then you walk back and work on that file. That is Germany of 2023, so we need to fix that. We need to bring computer education into schools. We need to enable kids at age 6 or 7 to leverage Copilot and other tools to learn coding. They can do it in German. They can learn coding before they learn English and French. And then we take that into the companies, we skill employees. And then I think the other thing that's dear near to my heart as a previous startup founder and somebody who talks with a lot of startups, we need to fucking make it easier to found a startup in Germany and keep it here. Because you know what all the startups do? They found a company in Berlin, they get their angel investment, and then they move to a Delaware LLC that they can shoot in 5 minutes on a web page, while the GmbH to found that takes like 30 days with a notary office, and every investor has to also go to that notary office. And the money is all in Silicon Valley. And so we need to bring the investors here. You know, we need to have the private and the public sector to enable these startups to build the next big tech company of tomorrow.
Okay, as an investor, please. As an investor and as a technologist, if you were advising government, what policy suggestions would you have? Sorry, we're going off script now, Thomas, but I'd like to know your specific policy sort of suggestions. Like, is it really just about being able to incorporate a company more quickly, being able to sort of like, whatever, raise finance more quickly? Is it all those kind of parts of, you know, building a business that are kind of slightly bureaucratic and boring, but actually are incredibly kind of like powerful because they take up too much of a founder's time?
You know, I've been criticizing a lot, and I will also make a compliment, which is great that the European Union actually ratified the European AI Act late of last year. It's great that Europe has clear regulation now, and it's even better that they put exclusions for open source and research into that European AI Act, because researchers and open source developers here in Germany or in Paris or anywhere else in the world, they don't have the money for a compliance department, they don't have a legal and policy department, they can't read all these restrictions of GDPR and whatnot, and you know what they do if they have to do that? They don't do open source, they just go and surf on Eisbach or find something else fun in life, because that's the trade-off that we're all doing on a Saturday morning when we're planning our weekend. So it's great, you know, that we have that clear European regulations. It's great for us, because now I can go to all the concerned German customers and tell them we're compliant, we're compliant, we're compliant, and we can talk about actually rolling out Copilot and other AI technology in those companies. And I think, you know, as the government, whether it's the European Union or the German government, they really need to think hard, and it starts with going to startups and actually talking to them, because this customer obsession, that's what all these startups do with their customers as well. Listen to what they have to say about the environment that they live in, and try to fight the pain points to create the next Silicon Valley here in Germany.
So when you do look at the ecosystem here in Germany, though, where do you see the bright spots? Where do you think Germany has strengths?
I mean, Germany has strengths because we have hundreds of years of history of engineering power. We are still the largest economy in Europe. Let's not forget that we're not growing, and that's really concerning, but we are the largest economy. We have all the great automakers, you know, they're still building great cars. We have great engineers, we have great, you know, very cheap universities. When I tell my friends in the United States that I went to technical university and the per semester cost was like 150 euros, and that actually included the ticket for the BVG, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Why would you grow your kids here, move them back to Germany? I think we have a lot of opportunity. We just need to, and you know, the previous speaker said it, let's stop complaining and let's get to work and not wait until tomorrow and the next week and the next week until some lawyer said and gives us allowance to do the thing that we want to do.
Okay, so if we get to, come on, yes, give it up for Thomas. If we do the things that you are talking about, which industries do you think there is a real opportunity here in Germany to grow? Like, where do you see the kind of like the real opportunities at scale?
Well, I mean, I think the car industry has gone through, you know, some shifts in recent years. You know, you can kind of see how carrot and stick works. The Dieselgate certainly was a stick, you know, that pushed everybody, you know, to think about alternative engines and motors. The carrot, you know, looking at Tesla and how they're running their company and how they're developing software. A car today is a battery and software. That's the differentiating things. Everything else, you know, leather seats and luxury items might still matter to a small percentage of the population, but you know, my kids don't care about that, and I think most of the TikTok generation or whatever you want to call that, they will care about that their car gets updates and that the mechanic comes to their driveway to fix the car, not that they have to make an appointment at a dealer somewhere and whatnot. And so I think they think the car industry has opportunity. We have opportunity in renewable energies. We have opportunity in fighting cancer, in fighting climate change. Like, there's nothing that this country cannot do if we only get to work.
Good. I love that optimistic point of view. So a final question. We started the session talking about the speed of change over the last year or so. I always think about being at DLD as like kind of we're existing in a kind of a crystal ball. We're looking forward. You're always having these amazing conversations at this event. What are we going to be talking about at DLD in January 2025? What's going to be on our minds then, do you think?
Well, hopefully Germany is doing better, and we're talking about that. I think, you know, if you look back, the last year, 2023, was the year of the AI revolution, when a lot of these innovations came to market, when you and many of your peers reported about them. I hope 2024 is the year when many companies start adopting AI and it becomes a breath motion. And it's going to be a little bit like 1994, the year after Netscape came out and we all saw the internet. Let's not, you know, forget the internet wasn't peaking at 1994. There was Amazon still to be born in 1995. There was Facebook and Google still to be born. You know, the cloud wasn't there. There's a lot of opportunities still ahead, and hopefully, you know, next year we're talking about the amazing progress in 2024 and the opportunity that's ahead of us in 2025.
Well, all I can say is if you ever get tired of life in Seattle, please do come back and run for Germany's digital minister. We'd love to see that.
Oh, God.
Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.